In a previous video we talked about a supply curve, and I'm going to just draw a supply curve right here, and we can just pretend that this is the supply for beef, though it doesn't really matter what the good is. And what we want to do now is talk about what causes this supply curve to change, what causes it to move to the left, to the right, or up or down. And I'm going to teach this by asking you this question. As your costs rise, suppose that you sell beef, and as your cost of producing beef rise, do you supply more or less at the same price? So you're getting the same price for beef, your costs now go up. Intuitively, do you supply more or less? You probably immediately think less, and that would be right. What we want to ask now is, how do we represent that less in this supply curve graph? Well, we do that by shifting the supply curve to the left, just like this. And so I drew a new supply curve. I'm going to call it S prime for new supply. And notice that I took it to the left. Remember, quantity is on our x-axis, so I went to the left. I'm going towards a smaller quantity. And I know this is the right answer because just suppose that the price is 5. And before you were selling 4 units. But now your costs rise and your supply curve shifts to the left. And at this new supply curve, at that same price, you're only selling 2 units. Now let's look at what happens when cost of production falls. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here, and we're not asking what happens when cost rises anymore. We're asking what happens when costs fall. And we're going to ask a very similar question. We say, as your cost of production falls, do you supply more or less at the same price? So you're selling beef. Just assume you're getting the same price for the beef you sell. Now your cost of producing the beef falls. Do you sell more or less? Intuitively, you probably think more, and you would be exactly right. But what we want to ask now is, how do we represent that in this supply and demand diagram? Well, we do so simply by moving our supply curve to the right. And call it S prime for new. Notice that at any price, say a price of 5, we were, under the old supply curve, selling 4 units. But now under the new supply curve, we're selling 5 units. And to summarize, we've seen that we have a supply curve, as you see here, and as the production costs rise, the supply curve is going to shift to the left. And you depict that by any supply curve that is to the left horizontally of the old supply curve. Conversely, if we ask, as production costs fall, the supply curve shifts right. And we illustrate that by just drawing a new supply curve that's to the right of the old supply curve. And there you see what causes supply curves to shift.